Game Time with Boomer Esiason. This week's guest is a 5-time World Series champion and a member of the Yankees' Core 4, MLB's all-time postseason wins leader, Andy Pettitte. Presented by Geico.
Today's guest made it from the Bayou to the Bronx, where he won 5 World Series rings and finished his career as the first player to pitch more than 15 Major League seasons without ever having a losing record. It is my pleasure to welcome ace southpaw Andy Pettitte to Game Time. Andy, welcome.
Hey, Boomer, thank you. It's good to be here, buddy.
Yeah, it is great to be here, and I can hear that accent in your voice, that Bayou accent in your voice, and I'm thinking a kid from the Bayou coming to New York. How long did it take you to acclimate yourself when you got to the Yankees?
It was definitely a little bit of an adjustment, for sure. The big city was a little overwhelming. You try to find your little niche. I had my direct route to Yankee Stadium and back home, and when I went to the city, I had one way in and one way out that I did basically my whole career. It was just, so I tried to keep it as simple as possible, but what a great place, what a blessing it was to be able to play in New York. But it definitely took a little bit for me and my wife to make that adjustment, just to so many people, born in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and then moving to Texas and coming from a small town in Texas and ending up in New York was definitely a little bit of a culture shock at first.
How cool was it really to step onto the mound in Yankee Stadium for the first time, realizing that you made it, given the fact that you have Monument Park out there, you have the arches in Yankee Stadium, just the whole history behind it?
It was awesome. It really was. I mean, I grew up, I wasn't a huge baseball fan. I was a Chicago Cub fan growing up, because they were always on TV down in Texas, and they had day games, so I would come home from school, they'd always be on. But once you got into the Yankee system, and then they start running guys like Yogi Berra and Whitey Ford, Joe DiMaggio, and Mickey early in my career. All these guys are coming around and seeing the minor league players, and your eyes just light up, and you're like, man, I want to be on that field. I want to play where they played, Just the excitement. Obviously, my first game was in old Yankee Stadium, which was absolutely the best place ever, and just the history there and stuff like that. So, it's hard to put in words how special it is, but obviously just a great achievement to be able to get there, because so many people want to wear that pinstripe uniform.
We're going to get into the Core 4 in a little bit. I just wanted to ask you a little bit about working with Hoyt Wilhelm and possibly becoming a knuckleball pitcher, and the fact that Jorge Posada supposedly told you, no, with the flutter balls, I'm not going to catch you. Stay away from that stuff.
Yeah. Well, Hoyt was my first pitching coach down in Tampa, Florida. I was 19 years old. They sent me to him, and man, what an honor to be able to work with him down there. He kept it as simple as you could possibly keep it. I mean, I'd be struggling sometimes and ask Hoyt for advice, and he would just literally say, Pet, keep it simple. He goes, as long as you're turning them to the right, you're doing all right. So when they get to first base, as long as they're turning to the right, he said, you're doing good. And that was about all the advice Hoyt would ever give me, But, hey, I threw a knuckleball when the Yankees signed me. And Hoyt, let me throw it in low A there when I was with them, because I was able to throw it for strikes and I was able to get a lot of outs with it. And he's like, I'm not going to take that away from you. You talk about Jorge Posada. I was in low rookie ball. I got moved up to high rookie ball my first year. And Georgie, they moved him to catcher. And I was throwing him knuckleballs, and the first few I threw him, they went off his shin guard and his foot. And he was like, I'm not catching that. I'm not going to catch you if you're going to throw knuckleballs. So anyhow, so when Georgie was behind the plate, he didn't want me to throw my knuckleball. So I had a pretty good one, but the Yankees minor league coordinators, they told me, hey, after you pitch 10 years in the big league, you can break a knuckleball out if you ever make it. But for now, we want you to learn a straight changeup. So they taught me a straight changeup, and I had to can the knuckleball.
You know what? You should thank Jorge Posada. Make sure you send him a Christmas card every year, because it turned out to be very good for you. All right, we're just getting warmed up with the great Andy Pettitte. Stay with us as Game Time continues right after this.
You're watching Game Time with Boomer Esiason.
Welcome back to Game Time, everyone, where we are joined by Andy Pettitte, who was a member of the Yankees' famed Core Four, along with Jorge Posada, Mariano Rivera, and of course Derek Jeter. This talented quartet formed the nucleus of a Yankee dynasty that won 4 World Series in 5 years, and later on added still a 5th Fall Classic title. And Andy, just to be a part of that group and to be thought of as the core of all those championships has to be something that will be a memory that lasts a lifetime.
It is, and it's something very special. I know we all take a lot of pride in that. You know, we kind of all came up together, signed real close. Me and Georgie signed the same year. I think Jeet came the year after. Mariano came the year before, I believe. We kind of intertwined throughout the minor leagues. Me and Georgie and Derek were in Greensboro, North Carolina, and A-ball at one time together, you know, in AAA together. Me and Georgie were there. And so, you know, we were in spring training, obviously, for 3 years together before we got to the big leagues and stuff like that. So to be able to all get up there and to spend as much time, so many years together, it's been a very it was a very special run. It's been a very special relationship.
You know, I was thinking about, like, you know, back when you guys were in the minors together, did you ever talk about getting to Yankee Stadium? Did you have the dreams of getting there and talk about how you wanted to bring a championship to New York?
You know what? Early on, we really didn't. You know, especially when you're in low A, and that's where me and Derek and Mariano were me and Georgie and Derek were together. I think at that point you're so just engulfed in. There's so many players, and there's so many guys that are you know, in AA and in AAA, and when you're down there, it's like, man, am I ever going to get there? You know, and so you really aren't having those conversations. And then when I got to AAA, Georgie was there. I didn't play with Derek or Mariano in AAA. Georgie broke his ankle that year and was out early. And so I don't ever really remember us having those conversations. Georgie was a top prospect. At that time, we knew he might be getting up there also. We knew Derek was a first-round pick and was going to be coming, and Mariano was doing great things. But not in the minor leagues. I don't really remember having a lot of those conversations. It was more about just kind of fighting. I was married. I had a child when I was in AAA, you know, our first baby, and it's like fighting tooth and nail yourself to just trying to get to the big leagues.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting that you guys lasted so long together because people don't realize just how hard it is to make it where you came from, not only to get there and then stay there together for as long as you did.
Yes, I mean, you got to be fortunate, you got to be blessed, and we all were. As far as just health, I mean, you know, just amazing that all of us stayed healthy and were able to play that many years together. And then just free agency, signing, leaving, you know, going. And I left for 3 years. The other guys, you know, stuck around their whole career. But it was amazing, you know, how much time we were together. And, of course, able to come back towards the end of my career, finish up my last 3 years there was just awesome.
No surprise that Derek Jeter is the CEO of the Miami Marlins, is it?
No, I mean, Derek's made that well known that he wanted to run a baseball team. And that's what he, you know, his aspirations were, his dreams were. And, you know, Derek's very oriented, goal oriented, and that was something that he dreamed about doing and wanted to do. And you knew one way or the other he was going to try to get involved in some organization and own it and try to run the thing.
The Dodgers winning the championship legitimate in your eyes?
Yeah, I mean, it's 60 games is tough, right? I mean, it's supposed to be a 160-game season, and so that's short, and it definitely isn't the same, right? It's just not the same. But everybody was on the same playing field. 60 games, everybody knew what they were going to play for and what they were doing. So, yes, I think it's legitimate. I mean, everybody had the same rules to play under. And, you know, you had to be fortunate to hopefully not have COVID, not to lose many players in certain times during the course of the season. The injuries were way up, obviously, with a lot of teams and stuff like that. I know it affected the Yankees. I don't get to watch a whole lot of baseball, but, of course, you know, working with the Yankees still and trying to follow them is kind of what I'll do. So they were banged up, had a lot of injuries also. But again, you know, no excuses. I mean, the Dodgers have a great team. They have been there for a lot of years in a row, and really and truly, you know, you kind of felt like it was their time. They haven't had that championship over the last 4 or 5 years, and they've been there every single year.
The one thing that I've always noticed about the Yankees, especially over the last 10 years or so, since all you guys have left, is that they just don't have the pitching staff that you guys had.
And the one thing that's kind of hurt the Yankees over the years is that consistency of having guys healthy. And so the biggest thing is just, you know, getting the health. So they know they need starting pitching. That's why they went out and gave Garrett Cole the biggest contract in and for a pitcher in baseball history. And so, they're moving in the right direction for that. We've got guys in the organization that we think are going to do extremely well and are going to take that next step. We need Severino to get healthy. He's an electric arm. He's going to be a great pitcher. Need him to stay healthy for us, and that'll be a big lift for us. And hopefully they can sign back some of these guys that are going to be free agents and kind of keep a good rotation going.
You know what I love, Andy? You keep using the word "we" when you talk about the Yankees. Once a Yankee, always a Yankee, even when you leave to go to Houston. And when we return, we're going to get into that with two-time 20-game winner Andy Pettitte after these messages.
You're watching Game Time with Boomer Esiason.
Although the Yankees retired Andy Pettitte's number 46 and he has a plaque in Monument Park, teammates Derek Jeter, Bernie Williams, Paul O'Neill, and even Danny Tartabull achieved something that the slender southpaw never did. They all appeared on Seinfeld. How come you never appeared on Seinfeld?
I'm not much on acting. I think I'm more, laid back, low key. I'd rather go home and be with my wife and kids. And I get uncomfortable in large crowds or in settings or definitely in front of a TV camera.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. Those guys did a great job and that show was great. But, it really was poking fun at George Steinbrenner and the way that he was. He came off as a pompous fool in that TV show. What was it like dealing with the boss?
Man, the boss was tough. There's no doubt about it. He was tough. For me personally, he was great. He expects a lot out of you. He's wanting excellence, that's for sure. And if he doesn't get it, he's going to let you know. But hey, there were some years where I went through some hard years, and the boss was very, very supportive of me. Me and him had a wonderful relationship. He was great to me, even though there was times where, I knew that there was, rumors out there that he was going to trade me. Because, maybe out early in the year, I wasn't performing like he expected me to perform and stuff like that. Thank the Lord, he never traded me away, and I stuck around for as long as I did. But he was awesome. I have no complaints about Mr. Steinbrenner, the way he handled me personally. He was wonderful to me. But there's no doubt about it. He was definitely difficult at some times to deal with. And I can tell you for sure, whenever he came walking around old Yankee Stadium, there was a lot of people, ducking and diving and jumping to places and trying to hide from him. Yeah. For sure.
Well, I'm glad you had a good relationship with him, which brings me to your relationship with the GM, Brian Cashman. Why is he so successful at what he does?
First and foremost, I know he'll say this. He's got a lot of smart people around him, and he listens, to the people that he's hired around him. But he's very consistent, and Brian's honest. You say that. If me and Cash, if we ever had a clash or whatever, even when I played, there was times where we didn't see eye to eye, and we might get in a little argument or words back and forth, but we're grown men, and sometimes that's going to happen and it's over. He doesn't hold that against you. He's very, he's very forthcoming. He's going to tell you how he feels, and he expects you to tell him how, you feel. I think that's great. If you're in the position he's in, I think that's great to have thick skin and to be able to handle, people saying stuff back and forth to each other.
We just talked about two personalities, George Steinbrenner, Brian Cashman, and then in the middle of all that is your manager, Joe Torre. And when they hired Joe Torre, I don't know if you remember seeing this in the back pages in New York, they coined him Clueless Joe, and all Clueless Joe did was win championships for the New York Yankees. How about your relationship with him?
Joe was like another father to me. It went beyond the baseball field. He looked at us not only as baseball players, but as human beings, and almost as his kids. If there was ever an issue, his door was open, and I knew that I could go in there and talk to him, to share things with him. If I, had a family issue, he was wonderful. He was a player's manager, and you love that as a player. I'm sure you've been around coaches plenty, and you love that as a coach, just going to, hey, how you doing? Come to my office, let's talk. Having a bad day, this or that. He totally understands. And Joe's always said it. He hit 180 in the big leagues or 200, and he's hit 360. So he knows this game is how hard it can be, and how sometimes it seems like you're just kind of going through the motions and it comes real easy. And so he never forgot that. And I think that's what most players love about him.
And he was the right guy for the right team at the right time. In his final career start in 2013, the 41-year-old Andy Pettitte threw his first complete game in more than 7 years. He yielded only 5 hits to his hometown Astros while fanning 5 and walking 2. It was Pettitte's 438th career start in pinstripes, tying Whitey Ford's franchise record. What a record to tie, and what a player to tie it with, Andy. And I was just wondering how hard it was for you to leave New York and go to Houston in the first place.
It was hard. I mean, just all the memories in New York, everything that we had accomplished there, the friendships, the relationships with just everyone around the ballpark, the front office people, just, I had been there since I was 19 years old, throughout my career. And not only all those people, but then the relationships with the guys that you had mentioned. I mean, the relationships obviously I had with Derek and Georgie and Mariano, because I'd been there the whole time with them, and then just a bunch of other great teammates that I, had relationships with. So it was a very, very difficult decision to make.
It's interesting because I often say this, that, we put the most pressure on ourselves as athletes. And we always want to be at our best. We always want to be out there. We want to live up to our contracts. We want to live up to our reputation. We'll be back to close it out with the great Andy Pettitte right after this.
Game Time with Boomer Esiason is back.
Andy Pettitte has a relatively straightforward approach to life. Whatever I do, I love to win, he says, adding, I don't care if it's tennis or ping pong, I'll kill myself to win it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not real sure, I guess one of my parents, my dad, he played a little football when he was younger, but, my dad always instilled in me just, son, you got to work hard. Hard work is the only thing that's going to get you to where you want to be. And kind of, I just remember that growing up, but it's something that I just always remember growing up. I mean, my parents would tell me things I can't even remember. Before I started playing tackle football, I'd be playing flag football, and they'd say if we lost the game, I would start bawling in the car, which I can't believe I did that, but they would just tell me. I mean, anytime I lost, I just took it so hard, and I probably can understand that. I realize now, and you wish you could go back and, think about my days in the big leagues and early in my career when you have, a wife and you have young children, and when things wouldn't go right, all I did was I just wanted to work through them and work harder. And I don't know exactly where that came from. I think it was just instilled in me by God. That's the only thing I can say.
I don't necessarily know that people understand just how fast a career goes. I mean, you went to the highest of heights in your sport with the most notable team, the most famous team in the world, the New York Yankees. And you were up there for such a long time. And now here you are. You're down in Texas. You go out hunting on your ranch. You go out in the mountains for 2 weeks at a time. You just told me off the air there was a time where you didn't take a shower for 12 days. I can't even imagine that. I mean, do you realize what you've accomplished in your career and how fast it went?
I definitely realized how fast it went. I mean, sometimes it's hard to just put together exactly, what you did. I was watching a World Series game and they flash up there and they, you see, most playoff wins and stuff like that. And you see your name up there and you're like,
Yeah.
Man, that's pretty cool. Obviously, you had to play for a long time and you had to play for, with a great team, and I had great players always around me. Instead of thinking about how great I was, I don't know why I'm just built this way, I guess. I just think about how great everything was around me, and how fortunate I was to be with the Yankees, and Mr. Steinbrenner as the owner, and then Hal as the owner, and them putting great players around me all the time, and what a great position and what a blessing it was for me to be able to play for the Astros and the Yankees. See, the 3 years I was with the Astros, we had great teams and great players. We were able to get to the World Series there, and then of course get there 7 times with the Yankees. It's just, when you start saying all that stuff, it's kind of like, wow. But really and truly, man, once you get home and, I'm coaching high school baseball and I'm, doing my stuff, doing my thing as far as hunting and stuff like that, it seems like it was forever ago, man. And now I'm just I got one kid left in school. I got a sophomore in high school. I've got one kid left. I got a grandbaby. 2.5-year-old grandbaby now. I mean, my time is being spent doing so many different things, and it's just wonderful.
You know, the next time you're in that tent for 12 days, just think back to how great it was when you were right in the middle of the Bronx, in the middle of the madness around here in New York. Our thanks to Andy Pettitte for joining us today. He's a great guy. And to all of you for watching, I'm Boomer Esiason. I'll see you again right here on Gametime.